And then I did a survey of a couple hundred music writers to get their perspective on music criticism, as well as Weezer. What drove changes in attitudes towards the band in the 1990s, from it being this sort of like sellout corporate creation to this authentic expression of an underground movement and like one of the best artists of the generation.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to MAXtapeLive.
Yes, welcome to the show.
I'm Lindsay Benedetto.
I'm Craig Rector.
And today we sat down for a conversation with our SVP of Product and Technology, Jeff Rosenfeld.
Yeah, the creator, if you will, creator of Set Out Live, the AME, and really all of our innovative tech here at Music Audience Exchange.
Yeah, he's truly the mastermind behind it all. So listen, you're not going to want to miss this episode.
No, definitely not one to miss.
I actually didn't realize that Jeff has had such a long career in the music industry.
Yeah, and not just in the business side and tech development and all that, but also as a musician himself.
Yeah.
So interesting perspectives on how things have changed over the last 20 years and even things that we need to be preparing for as things continue to change, specifically with AI. Not only AI and how artists and their teams, what they should be looking out for, preparing for, but also how AI is being integrated into our own.
Craig, let's not give away too much now.
All right. You're going to have to watch to get the rest of it.
Hey, well, this is a really exciting day for us at Music Audience Exchange because we're sitting down with Jeff Rosenfeld, our SVP.
Hey guys.
Product and Technology.
Yeah. The creator.
The creator.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the most brilliant minds we have here. So we're really happy to have a chat with you today, Jeff.
Thank you.
So what I understand, this is what I've been told, that you have had a long career in and around music, and it started actually with your undergraduate thesis at Harvard on Weezer. So can we talk about this for a minute? Like, what was that about?
All right. I was a huge Weezer fan. And I wrote a paper for a class for my sociology of taste class on changes of attitudes towards Weezer's second record, which was initially panned and ultimately was considered one of the best albums of the 90s. So I went to Weezer and I said, I'm writing this paper. Can I get access to, can you send out my survey to your fans? And it was a long survey. It took 20 minutes to take, and it got every aspect of their fandom towards Weezer.
So you had Weezer send this out to their fans?
Yeah. So wow. Weezer.
What was the inroad to Weezer, though? Like, I'm still trying to figure out the connection. Like, how? So
I was part of a message board where the singer from Weezer was posting.
Okay. And
so, so I just got to know like the band and the team. So I have the survey that's very in depth on Weezer fans. They agree to send out the survey. They send it out to their mailing list. They get 20,000 responses.
Wow.
And all of a sudden now I have much better data about Weezer than I do about the topic I was going to write my senior thesis on, which was foreign policy towards Russia, foreign policy towards China in the late 1960s. So I've got all this great data, and I start writing my thesis. I interview all the writers from Rolling Stone who panned it in 1996, who panned Weezer's second record in 1996, and then I did a survey of a couple hundred music writers to get their to get their perspective on music criticism, as well as Weezer. And so I ended up with all this data that pointed to what drove changes in attitudes towards the band in the 1990s, from it being this sort of like sellout corporate creation to this authentic expression of an underground movement and like one of the best artists of the generation. And so that kind of started me down my path of kind of like really analytics about music, understanding music fandom, and kind of what drives kind of like the process of, understanding which artists are considered good artists.
Wow. So what year was this?
2002.
Okay.
2003.
So One, did you show Weezer this, and did they?
Yeah, I did. And so I ended up being brought on as an intern for Weezer. So I worked for Weezer for,
So you've like literally been in the music industry for over 2 decades now.
Yeah. So between playing in a band and then, actually working in the music industry, 2 decades.
So then, what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen over the last 20 years?
So, the entire business model of music is fundamentally different than it was 2 decades ago. So, it used to be about you're creating music, you're selling music, and that is your product. Today, because of streaming, your music is essentially free, and your music is a marketing tool to bring on new fans who are going to pay for concert tickets, they're going to pay for merch, and increasingly they're paying for access. So things like Patreon make fans feel like they are part of the art.
Yeah.
And that's a critical part of many artists' income these days, in a way that selling physical media or selling streaming is not.
It's an interesting phrase you just said, that your music is now a marketing tool to essentially, it's not the product anymore. It's the avenue to
the vehicle.
And you need so many streams in order to make money that it's for most artists, it's not at the volume that they would need. So what's important is being able to understand who your super fans are and being able to let them know how they can support you in terms of buying your merch, showing up at your shows. And I think fans are really happy to do that because, part of their expression of fandom is how they are supporting this artist and doing it in sort of a way that, communicates who they are as part of their identity. So, it's become really important for artists to be able to, know who their fans are, be able to contact them. And when they have new album, when they have new merch, when they have new opportunities for like VIP passes, they need to be able to reach out to those fans and let them know it's possible.
Well, so let's frame it though. You're saying reach out, and what you're referring to is reaching out directly to them.
That's right.
The method now is I post on social, I make a video, I create some sort of content on, that goes on some other third-party platform. So one, why not just do that?
So,
like I've already got 1 million followers on TikTok. Why not just go buy my ticket or do the thing?
So back in the day, it was, the fad was let's build our email list. And then MySpace came along. And it's like, let's build my MySpace followers.
Yeah.
And then, it was Facebook, it was Instagram, it's TikTok. And over time, artists have found that they become beholden to social media companies, whether or not fans are going to see their content. So, initially, if you posted something on MySpace or Facebook, your fans saw everything you posted. But over time, the algorithm started to limit how many of your fans saw your posts unless you paid Facebook. And, at any point, any social media platform can decide that is how they're going to tweak the algorithm. And so the question is how can you be sure that the algorithm's not going to change, that the social media platform that you've invested a lot of time in building a fan base on isn't going to go away. TikTok could be regulated, and all of a sudden, all the time you spend on TikTok, could be for naught. So the key is to start collecting that fan content information now, so you know who your super fans are, so you can stay in contact with them regardless of what happens in the social media environment, and so that from now on, you could text or you can email that fan to let them know about your music, to let them know about your merch, to let them know about your tours.
You kind of alluded to it, but I guess what is, for those that are either unable or unwilling to go down that path of collecting fan information, like what's the long-term consequence with where you see things shifting?
Yeah.
It's a risk. So unless you are focused on knowing who your fans are, you have, you're really jeopardizing like your likelihood to be able to reach fans in the future.
Yeah. Well, let's talk Twitter, and then Twitter changes hands to Elon Musk, and then he rebrands to X, and it's like, let's just say that was your bread and butter.
Primary.
What is it now? And what is your following worth, and how many people are on it? TikTok, let's just say that it goes the route of being banned here in the United States. Where's your future now? Let's just say that Squibble, I don't know, that's a made up social platform.
Everyone's on it.
Everyone will be on it after
Not
this.
me.
If that's the next big one, then how much time and energy are you spending building that and bowing down to the algorithm? So I guess the long term is that you're always going to be beholden to something else as opposed to taking control of your fan base and having control yourself. What was the origin and the evolution of Set.Live? Because it didn't start with what it is currently.
I mean, no, during the pandemic, we were looking for tools to help artists kind of reach their fans. Because, all of a sudden, all the tours were over. Artists needed a way to generate attention, marketing, money. And so, we started building out, I think, initially some live streaming. We built out an online meet and greet tool where fans could buy a meet and greet session, like a one-on-one with their favorite artist. And then as live music came back, we started building out tools that allowed for artists who were playing mostly covers to collect tips for the songs that they were playing on location. And so we started playing around with all this location-based technology, and it occurred to us, look, we've got all these artists who are out there playing every night to, between tens and thousands of people, and they don't know who's in that audience. They're not getting that information from the ticket providers, and they want to be able to reach out to those fans again. And for all the new fans they made, make sure that those fans are able to see them the next time they're in town. So Set.Live was a natural extension of that, where you could, as a fan, pull up a site on your phone. It would tell you what show you're at, and you could put your information into a form, and that artist would then be able to reach out to you in the future. And so we've seen a large number of artists, ranging from, Alicia Keys, who's playing stadiums, down to artists who are starting out their career playing, clubs and bars. And, everyone on that full spectrum is finding value in leaving that show with the contact information of the fans who came to see them play and enjoy the show.
So is it enough just to get contact information? If I were to just use Set.Live or any other tool that collects fan information, I have email addresses and phone numbers, is that enough for an artist to be successful in the future? Or what else should they be doing? What more should they, what other information is important to have?
So unfortunately today, you can't just be an artist and decide, I'm going to put my music out there. My art is going to speak for me. You've also got to be a marketer. And so having that information is important to having a plan around how do you reach out to those fans, deciding, how am I going to make sure that they know about my merch, about my next release, pre-saving my next album, putting my newest single on a playlist, all of those sorts of things. You need to think about how are you going to make sure your fans are doing that and reaching out to them.
What about deeper? As a marketer, so as marketers, we're looking into insights about, buying behaviors and interests, and how can we, even like tentpole events, holiday or, like Hispanic Heritage Month, and we're trying to figure out what buckets contacts fall into so that we can be relevant. And so, as you said, artists aren't marketers. How do they know what to talk about beyond just buy my merch, I'm coming back? It's more than just asking, how do you give and, curate that conversation?
So I think, one of the other tools that we built is called Set.Fan. And it allows for you to create online engagements and collect additional information about your fans. So I think most artists today have realized that in addition to being musicians, that they're influencers and that they're content creators, and they've got to create compelling content on social. So I think that it's important to think about, if you're creating that that content, how often do you have a call to action to have that fan provide you data back? And today, you might ask fans to comment on a piece of content to kind of drive the algorithm to show it to more people. But you should also think about, how do you start to understand who your fans are? So things like, what streaming services are they using? How are they listening to music? What formats are they buying? What social media are they using? So, are your fans mostly found on TikTok? Are they using X? Are they mostly Instagram people? Yeah. And I think capturing that data and sort of pairing that with kind of like fun feedback is a great way to get to know who your fans are, how to reach other people who have the same taste and same profile as the fans who have already found you. And I think that it's like it's a new skill that artists need to acquire, or find someone who can work with them who has that capability, because the more people who you can bring into your world and to have, listen to your music, right, the more you're able to grow that fan base and, grow the world of people who appreciate your art.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was talking with this label. He handles the marketing for the label, and we'll leave it nameless, but he was actually talking about one of his bands has massive, like 2 million followers on TikTok, but got that following by doing cover music. And they have their original music now, and they have no idea who would be interested in their original music, and then even who would be like, if they're putting together a tour, like where they should go, and who would actually pay for tickets. And so something like Set.Fan, where you could poll that,
ask those
and
questions,
say, hey, here's
find out
some original music, or here, whatever the poll or engagement point is, and then you start to collect that information, and then you can reach out directly to them before ever even going on tour.
Yeah.
So for an artist who's built up the fan base by doing a bunch of covers, you could do an engagement that says, here's a bunch of covers that we played. Which was your favorite? And then on top of that, then you start to ask the questions that help you identify who those fans are and what else they like. So fans are going to be more willing to kind of tell you more about themselves if you offer them that opportunity to provide feedback about, their favorite cover that you played, their favorite artist who you've covered.
Yeah.
Or, you can also have them provide feedback about things like, hey, we had all these new merch items that we're considering. Which designs do you really like?
Yeah.
And if you can get the fans to feel like they're a participant in the process, they're much more likely to, in the future, when you do release that merch, buy it, because they have a sense of ownership.
They have some ownership. Yeah. It's that give and take. So when we think about the core, the bread and butter of our business, as we say, is our artist brand partnerships. So we're talking a lot about like acquiring that personal information for their fans who are at the shows, and then having deeper insights on where they're spending their time online, their buying habits. For the artist, it's valuable for them to have that information just for themselves, to market themselves, plan better tours. But then what about the brand partnership piece? What about that information is valuable and enticing to? What should artists know about potentially working with brands, and how having that information influences that?
Yeah.
So brand dollars are an extremely important part of the new economy of music.
Yeah.
Because streaming isn't lucrative like selling physical media, you've got to find the money somewhere. And brands are increasingly finding that music is a great way to reach consumers, because as we found in our own research here, there are many consumer attributes that correlate with taste in music. So if you're looking for a particular type of consumer, who, let's say, is someone who, we have one artist who we're working with, and their fans love crafting. And so if there's a craft goods store, that might be a good opportunity for that artist to find some brand dollars, to, hey, look, your money will be well spent with us.
Yeah.
And we've got all these folks who they talk about how much they enjoy crocheting, and knitting was one of the top indexed hobbies among this artist's fan base.
That's great content, even just for they themselves to know and to create.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that, finding a brand isn't as easy as just sending off your music to that brand and saying,
Right.
look how great we are, look how many followers we are.
Right.
Every artist has a large number of followers. Well, I should say every bit. There are a number of but for every artist out there who has 1 million followers, there's a ton of other artists who also have 1 million followers and who also have good music. And so when you're approaching a brand, you need to differentiate yourself. And so the best way to do that is to understand more about your fan base and to be able to pitch, why is my fan base someone that you want to talk to?
Yeah.
And so being able to collect consumer data on your fans is an important way to be able to package up, all right, Craft and Good Store, we think that we're a good partner for you because our fans, they are crocheters, and that's going to be hard to find.
You're going between, hey, here's my music, here's my album, or look at my followers, aren't I? Don't you want to work with me? To I have a fan base that looks exactly like the people you're trying to reach. I can reach them in all these different ways, live and on social, and I have ways of being able to introduce you directly to them, not just on my social channels, but also, when you're collecting that information, being able to have, that's very valuable.
Yeah.
It's a vastly different conversation.
Yeah.
So I wanted to save this for towards the end because it's a big topic. I think even just since the end of the pandemic, the strides we've made with artificial intelligence. What do you see coming down with not only with AI? What should we be looking out for and be cautious of and preparing ourselves to weather? And then how do you actually see it benefiting or not benefiting the music industry and artists and songwriters?
Yeah.
So
He's AI. He's downloading. He's in the middle of a download.
Plot twist.
So
Plot twist.
AI is going to be able to produce catchy music. It's going to be able to produce moving music. It may not have life experiences. It may not have a soul, but it will have a lot of input about what makes for good music, about what makes for good stories. So it will be able to generate, if you didn't know who it was from, compelling artwork. What it won't be able to do is have the human connection that an artist has with their fans. And so if you think about the way that fans interact with their favorite artists, they care not only about like the songs themselves, but they want to learn about the stories of their favorite artists, what drives their favorite artists, the stories behind their favorite artists' songs. And artists need to lean into the fact that that's not something that AI can do today. And I think that that's an important part of how people consume music. There's some that's just, what's compelling on the dance floor. And I think AI can win there.
Yeah.
But there's also what's important to me as someone who turns to music, as an art form to understand the human condition better and the people who are creating that artwork. And I think that that's where that's what artists need to understand in terms of where they, where the value is going to be in the long term.
Is the music industry in danger of, like with streaming, it was a long time for us to adjust from, we're not selling records and we're adjusting to how do we monetize, streams. And then what is the adjustment period here?
So in the short run, there's going to be only a few companies that have access to the best AI to write good songs. But that won't last for very long, and that will be democratized. So everyone will have access to the best songwriting engines. And so the question at that point is, there's going to be some artists who lean into the fact that they're writing their own music, that they have their own stories. There's going to be some who are performers but not songwriters who can create they don't need to have Nashville's like best songwriting team.
Yeah.
Because they have this AI engine of their own, and they can lean into the fact that they're performers, that they can explain why, the prompt that they put in was meaningful to their lives, and their performance of that song is going to bring
That's
it to life.
interesting.
And I think that performers need to, also think about from a business perspective, making sure that they build that relationship with their fans on like a human to human level that like technology can't do, because you're going to need someone you're going to need to have a community who wants to support you, who wants to buy your merch, who wants to wear your T-shirts and say, I really love this artist. And I think artists who can cultivate that are going to do well, regardless whether or not they're writing their own songs, whether some people are writing their songs for them, or they are using AI to generate their songs.
What you said, like, I was sitting here thinking internally, and I am so guilty of, I say guilty, not like as a wrong word, but there's songs that I like. I'm like, oh, this is catchy. And then I'll learn about the artist, and then I'll learn about their story. And then there's all this stuff, and all of a sudden that's my favorite artist.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden everything they do is amazing. And,
Yeah.
and like, there is something about that human to human connection that, unless I'm just like, if I'm working, I might throw on something. I don't care where it was created. I'm just needing a beat and, while I'm working or doing something. But, when I'm listening, I'm emotionally moved often not only by what the music is doing, but me connecting with that artist.
Yeah.
And if I were to know that words that are moving me emotionally were created by something that has no capacity to understand what it's doing to me, like, I don't know that, like, I may still like, oh, that's a cool song. But I'm not going to connect with that.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Yeah. Because we, as human beings, crave connection.
Yeah.
And we need another person on the other end of that relationship.
Yeah, I
to
think we're
connect
hardwired
with.
for it.
Yeah. And we need an email and a phone number to
To connect.
to connect. Cool.
Love
So I saved this. I was going to say at the beginning, but you were on a roll. One of my first concerts, my first arena concert, was a Weezer concert. Yeah. It was me and my friend Brian, and then the Martin sisters, Barb and Beth. And we got in a car. We drove to Phoenix, Arizona. We stayed at Full Circle Motel 6, who we just launched our campaign with. And we stayed on one bed, the four of us laying kind of horizontally across it so that we could go see Weezer, and we stormed the floor.
What tour was it?
You guys are more connected already. I see it.
I'm drawing a blank on the blue cover.
Oh, wow, the first record.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. My first concert.
What was the name of that album?
It's self-titled, the Blue Album.
Okay. So I did know. Let me rephrase. It was. Let me talk like I know.
It was the blue, yeah.
My first show, without my parents, was The Offspring, which is now using Set.Live.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love this. Talk about a full circle moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, what was my first show? I think it was actually relatively recent, but I saw John Mayer live, and I've loved John Mayer. Like, he's one of those artists that I've grown up with because he's produced music for so long, and he's got really great music as well. But he had Yebba open for him, and Yebba was one of those artists that a friend introduced me to her, and I did exactly what you said people do. You go down the rabbit hole and you have to like consume everything there is to know about them. I was looking up every interview she had ever been in on YouTube, and she was sort of an obscure artist at the time, had mostly just been doing collabs with other big name artists. So she was not super well known herself, but then John Mayer has her open for him. And it was just, I remember how I feel sitting in that chair. I cried because her music was that moving. And, it was that I understood, parts of her story that she chose to share that really, bring it to new life and connected to some of my own experiences. So she was up there like mixing her own mic. Like she had why have I lost what that's called? Where she was mixing her own reverb essentially while she's singing. I mean, she was a one woman show doing it all, and her vocals are just insane. And she's up there like mic over here, and then she's got like her soundboard over here, and it was just like I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience for sure. So I'd love for Yeba to be using Set.Live. Yeba, if you're out there, if you ever watch this. Yeah.
So we're doing call outs for who's going to use
I think we should. Yeah,
Damien Rice, please.
Yes.
If you're going
Paul McCartney.
to. Okay.
Interesting.
You should know who all of his fans are.
Interesting.
So Damien Rice is one of those that makes me know that AI will never replace human creativity. This is why. There is something about how flawed his voice and live performance, like where you can hear his voice crack. You can hear it waver and strain in ways that is...
That's how I feel about
He was an
Yeba.
Android, and that was carefully programmed.
And
You're about to blow
all of my
Craig's mind.
expectations are
Like,
shattered.
I know.
He's got a fictional backstory. It's very convincing.
He's about to take a half day. Craig's going home after this.
Yeah.
That's a day. It's a wrap. That's how I feel about Yeba too. Yeah.
So let's kind of end on this note. You're in charge of the roadmap of the tech that we're developing, and I know that you're heavily focused on tech that is going to serve the artist community. So what's kind of in the pipeline? What's coming in the way of tech that you can share with us?
I mean, we're continuing to make Set.Live and Set.Fan turnkey. So we want anyone, regardless of who they are, to be able to quickly just sign up, create an account, and be able to start learning who their fans are, both at live shows as well as on social. And we are trying to use AI where we can to make everyone's lives easier. To, let's say, we can look at your merch page. We can bring in all your merch items so that you can add them to your Set.Live experience. We're looking at your photos. We're trying to figure out what a good color schemes would be given your photos.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
So, I think people should be looking for if you're an artist, if you're trying to grow your fan base, check out Set and see how you can start to build your Rolodex of fans.
I mean, it was pretty simple. You guys have it created to where when you go through on this self-serve, which we're about to launch, so we're super excited. But where everything from the language that's being used, when you just kind of click through, like you said, it's going to automatically pull in a picture and the best color scheme that you can choose from, and you have options. And when you choose how you want to engage the fans at your show, and it will come up with text. And so literally you can not put too much thought if you're not a creative person, but come up with something that looks very thoughtful and creative for your experience. And so, and then for those that want to take it a step further and own the language, they can change it. And, it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm hard to impress. So far, everything you've done here, I've been like, okay.
So if you have an artist whose art is music, it's not being a copywriter, it's not copying and pasting links from different places. Our goal is to make it very easy, where you put in your website and we pull in all your streaming links. We pull in photos that might be good photos for you to use. We figure out the color schemes for each of those photos. We pull in your merch. And as you said, we're able to suggest, here are some types of, let's say, incentives that some artists are using. Here's some language that you might use in your Set.Live experience, and then you can customize it however you want. But our goal is to, in 6 or 7 clicks, have you be able to go up on stage and announce your Set.Live experience and start collecting that fan data.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Jeff, thanks for being with us today.
Yes.
Lovely to have you here in the state of Texas at our headquarters. You're normally in LA, so.
Thank
He's
you.
usually on Mount Olympus, and he has stepped down to come play with mere mortals.
Hello, peasants. Yes, indeed. Well, thanks again for your time, Jeff. We appreciate it.
Yep.
So I hate to say that we told you so.
Yeah. Well, we told you so.
We did. That was a really great conversation today.
It was. It was. And thank you for joining us. So if you only do one thing today, and really, it really is more than one, but it's the collective one.
Yeah,
Be sure you like, follow, share, and subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.